Okay, I hope this is working. Let's see. Okay, welcome Sumo fans. Sorry for the delay. There were some weird technical glitches going on here, so my apologies for being late, but So, we've got a wild, back in the day type tournament. We haven't seen a tournament like this in probably a couple of years. And here we were just talking on the recap show about how Sumo had been righted again. We have a new Ozeki, and he's the real deal. And Terunofuji's back. And the logjam up in the Sanyaku has been solved. And it's all lies. It's all lies. That's all I can say. Every time we think we're secure, we are not secure. And July is a perfect basho to prove that to us, because it is in fact the slippery basho. Every July is somewhat like this, but there are some Julys that are worse than others. I haven't really been looking at the forecasts in Japan, but it's probably a little extra hot, or the air conditioning isn't working, or something. Because really the story of this basho so far has been the amount of losses due to slipping, which then leads to the natural conclusion of a lot of slapdowns. So I don't know how many of you guys have ever fought, either amateur, professionally, watched fights or whatever. Particularly if you're fighting outside, you have to change the way your stance is because of the possibility of slipping. So I just did a karate class outside the other day. And we were all wearing our sneakers, and we were outside. It was the first one we had done in a while, and we were sparring. And our teacher was like, tighten up your stance and come in a little closer, because you try to throw those big kicks and you're going to slip and fall. And lo and behold, 30 seconds later, somebody goes for a roundhouse, slips with the other foot, and crashes to the ground. So this is what we have here in this sumo tournament. After the first couple of days of watching people go all out and slipping and falling and having epic losses, everybody's tightening up now, and they're not charging with their full aggression. They're kind of staying crouched and staying low, but then they're not outputting all of their power, and this is affecting guys like Tamawashi, probably affecting Gonoyama. It'll be nice to see him outside of July to see how much power he really has. It's definitely affecting Kim Bozan, for example. So what are you going to do? Monster says Goofy Clown Shoes Basho, which that's kind of accurate. So at this point, there's a couple of things you're looking for out of your fighters. Who can endure, who can adapt? Who can adapt to the situation? Who can endure the stress of it? Some guys they're just great wrestlers, so they're going to figure it out no matter what. And then who's going to get lucky? So there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot to talk about. We'll see if we can get through all of it. So let's first touch on the leaderboard. What's going on with that? How we got here? What tomorrow's going to look like? And then whatever else we want to talk about. So right now we have Nishikigi 9-1, Hokutofuji 9-1, hence the title Hokutofuji Yusho. Any subscribers who've been around this channel for a while know exactly why I put that title. Yes, John has been sending me messages every day, Hokutofuji Yusho. And so in honor of John, who cannot be here on this live stream right now, that is the title of this video. I'll get into how possible or not possible that is in a second. Next, we have 8-2 Hoshoryu, 8-2 Daieisho, 8-2 Endo, 7-3 Wakamotoharu, 7-3 Shonannoumi, and 7-3 Hakuoho. There's a lot of fascination. There's a lot to talk about with Shonannoumi and Hakuoho and Gonoyama and all the new guys. But first, let's talk about the playoff situation. So Nishikigi looks like a beast. He took down Terunofuji. We know Terunofuji was not 100% coming in And you've got the fact that it's the slippery basho. So Terunofuji has no good reason beyond like Yokozuna pride and having to represent, because once again, things are not right in the top of the Banzuke. He has no good reason to stay in this one, considering that the slipping is going to affect him. He has 2 bad knees. He's at the end of his career. And boy, that didn't work out for him. It did not work out for him to show up. But that's another topic. Nishikigi has already shown us in the previous tournament that something was going on. This is a surprise, but not a surprise. He was really, when he beat Takakeisho in the last tournament, and then he ends up like just clearing the board at the end of the last tournament, it was one of those things where you're like, is this going to be the start of something, or is this just a fluke? To see Nishikigi really dominate right now in a tournament that's so crazy, it's one of two things. Either Nishikigi is getting a lot of good luck, which I think maybe a little luck, everybody gets a little bit of luck, or how much better would he be doing in a tournament that's not crazy like this? So Nishikigi, you know, he's a veteran. He has a lot of experience. And we've seen veterans pull this off. We saw Hoshoryu do this. We saw Tamawashi do this twice. There's a high possibility that Nishikigi can pull this off. Do I think he's going to win? I'm not sure. I'm not going to throw my guess into him yet. Next we have, surprise, Hokutofuji. Hokutofuji has also shown glimpses of this possibility. When he first came in, he was a very hot prospect, and just things did not come together for him. He hung out in the Maegashira 1-4 for a very long time before his rough and tumble style just got the better of him, and then he had to spend some time, you know, in the middle, down towards the bottom. But the potential was always there, and he had that Yusho, or he had that basho a couple of tournaments ago where we have the infamous, it was last year, we had the infamous Takakeisho Hanka that really screwed things up for him. Well, now there's no Takakeisho, now there's no Terunofuji, now we have one limping brand new Ozeki. This, if there was ever a time for Hokutofuji Yusho, this would be the time. Do I think he can pull it off? I don't know. Next we have two very interesting guys. One, Hoshoryu. That loss to Kota no Waka is going to sting. That's going to sting. He always seems to have one of these shattering losses that he just can't afford to have. And it's the difference between, you know, him getting a Yusho, him becoming Ozeki, him rising higher. Something always goes wrong. But Kota no Waka is a great fighter, and he should be beating people. So there's no shame in who he lost to, but that one's going to sting. Hoshoryu is my current pick to win the whole thing. Like, he's who I picked after, my botched Takakeisho pick. That was just wishful thinking right there. Sometimes you got to do that when you have a favorite. You have to say, yeah, he's going to win it all. Even though I had no proof that his knee was better, and now it's like both knees are messed up. So, I think Hoshoryu this is his time. This is a great opportunity. He doesn't have the top guys to fight. He's got all the guys he should be able to beat, though he has hankered Nishikigi in the past, but he's always just a little bit behind. So we're going to have to see, but he is still my pick. And he is still on an Ozeki run. He was the one who we surmised would probably have to have a Yusho equivalent or the Yusho to get the promotion. We're going to have to see. The decision as to whether Hoshoryu can be an ex-Ozeki is really going to come down to the last couple of days. Seeing how he does. And then we have Daieisho, who has the best shot. He's in the playoff race right now. He has the best shot of being Ozeki because he does have that Yusho equivalent in there. And he's looking great. he's really tightened up. Like, in some ways, the slipperiness is a good handicap to have, because Daieisho has a tendency to, lose matches on the edge due to, like, just trying to get that final push so bad that his footwork falls apart. He has to be very tight, very calculated. I see that he's tracking very well. Like, when he's pushing a guy, he's not losing him. He is stuck to him like glue. This is what Daieisho needs to win a Yusho. He needs to stick. He's got the power, and he's got much longer arms than Takakeisho, so he's got the potential. He really, really has the potential to become Ozeki. He just can't blow it here at the end. This is like crunch time. Can he win the Yusho? Absolutely he can win the Yusho. He's already proven that he can do that. So there's a lot of possibility there as well. One of the surprises would be 8-2 Endo. Only surprise in that he's been all over the place. I mean, he's a talented guy. He should be a Yusho winner. He should be an Ozeki. His career just has not followed that path. I'm assuming mostly due to injuries, though you never hear much about specific Endo injuries, but I've heard that he has ongoing ones. So this is a good opportunity for him, because he's had some tournaments like the one with Hokutofuji where he wins on the edge like that. He's had some opportunities to be in it, and then it's fallen apart, and then the very next basho is not for him. Good opportunity. I would love to see Endo win a Yusho right now. I really would, because I don't think he has much more in him, many more opportunities. But then again, the top is a mess, so who knows? Who knows? But I think this would be a stellar opportunity for him to do it. I kind of feel like it's now or never for him. 7-3 Wakamotoharu. So he's doing good in terms of he's in the race and everything, but he seems to be fading a little bit. He does not have the zeal that he had in the last couple of tournaments. Could be because of the conditions. He might not want to get hurt. He's a guy who does a lot of risky moves on the edge. He's a very highly skilled technical guy. He really needs his feet to be planted solid. He really needs to have everything go exactly right for things like the uchari. So the conditions might be throwing him off. I would not be surprised at all. With that said, he's still hanging in there. He's one heck of a talented guy. But I have a feeling that this is not the tournament for him. I think he's lost out in his Ozeki run at this point. Like, he can hold pace and try again in September. But I'm thinking that idea is over. Next, we have Shonannoumi, whom, he's one of the guys that everybody's got their eyes on. He's newer. He's fresher. And he's making a statement very early. This is encouraging. I'm not going to say too much more because I want to watch him more. I don't have a good vibe yet on Shonannoumi. 7-3 Hakuoho. Very interesting Hakuoho. I already feel like he's had two different tournaments. I felt like he came in really, really strong, and then he had a couple of tough losses. And I thought, okay, this is it. He's going to have one of the hard things about a guy who comes in for the first time is the tachi-eyes are stronger, they're faster, they're harder, the impacts are harder, the matches are longer. You may not have the endurance right away simply because you've never done it before. It's a huge learning curve. So I thought, okay, Hakuoho, he's already hit his wall. He'll learn in this tournament for next tournament. And it looked like Gonoyama was going to be the breakout star. But now we're seeing a little bit of a flip. We're seeing Gonoyama fade, and that's kind of not surprising for a pusher thruster because, A, the whole game is power. The whole game is power with a pusher thruster. He's dealing with the endurance issues. He's dealing with the impact issues. He's also dealing with the slippery stuff. That's tough to overcome. Hakuoho has Hakuoho, Miyagino, as his coach, and there's no doubt about it that he is like pumping him full of knowledge on how to overcome the conditions, how to deal with when you're tired here in the second week, all sorts of intel on all the guys he's fighting. Like, I feel like he's got the sumo encyclopedia right there in his face, and it's just up to him to use his natural talent and the skills that he's built up to just do what he's got to do. So Hakuoho, who knows? I mean, it'd be so fantastic to see him in it right until the final day. I don't think he's going to win it. I can see the nerves. I can see the newness. I can see some of the overcoming he has to do. But then again, it is the Slippery Boss show, and anything could happen. It is very possible. Anything. So, going through all of that, I'm going to just go over what tomorrow's matchups are, and then I will get to your comments. I see them. I just want to get through all of this first. So, one thing I didn't talk about before I talk about tomorrow's matchups, what I didn't talk about is this tournament started off it already started off messed up. You have Kirishima pulling out right, like, that day you get the news that he's not going to be in it. And then you find out he's had back pains for like a year. And of course, they kept that a secret. So here we are thinking that Kirishima is the new great coming because he's healthy. We don't see any tape on him. We don't see any bandages on him. He's in good shape and he's a great wrestler. And now we find out he's been hurt for a year. Well, that throws everything off. That totally throws everything off. We already didn't have Daieisho and have no idea when he's coming back. And then Hokutofuji. Okay. There's been a lot of talk about Tobizaru on this channel. All I'm going to say is this. He dismantled Hokutofuji. I could not believe what I saw. He took him. I don't care if Hokutofuji's not having his best day. Sure, he probably wouldn't have beaten him if Hokutofuji was in his best condition. But he didn't just fluky win him. Like, he took him apart. And then he knocked him out of the tournament. I don't know what regiment Tobizaru just started. But, wow. Look out. Because if this is the start of something, I can't wait to see what he does next. But there you go. And then Kirishima comes back. And I'm sure that's because everybody's probably like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? So he had to come back to represent. So he's back, but you can tell. I mean, I'm sure he's being ginger, A, because he has the back issue. And B, because now he has to worry about the slipping too. And he's a technique guy. Like, he's just hanging on. This is a survival tournament for him, and he's hoping not to go Kataban. So let's all give positive vibes to Kirishima, because who needs 2 Kataban Ozeki again, especially when we just got a new one? Let's all be rooting for him. Okay. I'm done with that. Peace. So tomorrow we have Daieisho and Kirishima. Once again, Kirishima is not in the best state. He is definitely not in the best state. Daieisho should be able to win that match tomorrow. However, we know that Kirishima beat Daieisho twice, 2 times in a row, to win the Yusho by doing ballerina moves on the edge. I'm guessing he's not going to want to do that because it's kind of risky. But at the same time, he could be in Daieisho's head. So we'll see. But I suspect Daieisho will win that match. Then we have Hokutofuji and Wakamotoharu. That's going to be a great match. Because it's Mr. Crazy, get myself beat up Hokutofuji against the technique man Wakamotoharu, who's being stymied by the conditions. Anything could happen in that match. I'm not picking someone in that match. Then we have Hoshoryu Tamawashi. Hoshoryu should win that match because, once again, Tamawashi is really, you know, he's slipped a couple times. It's throwing him off, and he's a power guy too. It decreases his Nodowa abilities. And Hoshoryu, he's a smaller guy. He can stay lower to the ground, and he's got quite a few techniques in that position. And he's hungry. He's got a chance to be Ozeki. He's got a chance to win a Yusho. And there's nobody getting in his way except for him. So he should win that match. But of course, Anything's possible. Then we have Kota no Waka versus Shonannoumi. Shonannoumi has shown like insane potential to be like a top guy. This is a great match to test that. Because Kota no Waka is a top guy, but he has not taken his rightful place because things are not quite right. So seeing how Shonannoumi goes against Kota no Waka is going to tell us everything we need to know about both guys. Once again, I'm not picking a guy there. Then we have Nishikigi and Endo, another fascinating match. They must have, I don't have the actual record in front of me, but they must have faced each other a bunch of times. They know each other well, and both of them could take each other on. Endo's the technique guy. Nishikigi's got a power, but he's also got technique. I'm going to give it... I don't know. I can't pick on that one either. And then this is very fascinating. They're giving Hakuoho Takayasu. So they're giving Hakuoho, Maegashira 7. They're giving him, you're in the race, so we're going to start giving you the harder guys. But obviously Takayasu isn't a bad place this tournament. He's probably hurt, and he's pretty tentative. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but this match is definitely fascinating because Takayasu usually takes it to the young guys. So let's see if Hakuoho can really show what he's got. And Miyagi really knows Takayasu. He knows him very well. So he's going to be giving some serious advice. So I'm going to be fascinated by that match. I hope it goes for a little while. I hope we don't get some weird outcome because that should be a really good match. So now, after I've said all of this stuff, I'm going to go all the way to the top and read all the comments, even though some of them are in response to things I said earlier. So we got a bunch from Monster in a row. Hakuoho is having a great debut, but he has looked very exploitable in his losses. Shonannoumi has been very impressive and seems like a more complete package. Okay, so this is true, but it's also one tournament. And you don't know what's going on inside of Hakuoho's head. He might be the type of guy who really, really learns from his losses. And like next tournament, he's amazing. With that said, Shonannoumi doing so much better than I gave him credit for. And he might be more of a complete package. That's the beautiful thing about these new guys coming up is we don't know who's going to be the next guy. Every time the new guys show up, there's such potential for new, fresh excitement. So we are going to at least be looking at these two, 5 years from now and saying, like, remember when they were rookies? The Monster says, I'll throw my guess to Nishikigi. He's already beaten all the Sanyaku. Getting matched against Endo today is very bad for him, though. Endo's a tough opponent for Nishikigi. And yes, Nishikigi has already taken on all who's supposed to be above him. He should have smooth sailing from here. But Endo is ranked in a position he shouldn't be in, and it's simply because of injuries. Endo could beat him. He really could. I don't want to pick. But Endo is very capable of beating him today. Dan T says, I agree. Nishikigi already has faced the highest ranked opponents. They could give him... It's reminiscent of Daieisho's January Basho win. It's very similar to Daieisho's January Basho win. I agree with that. Monster says, very happy for Daieisho. I'm not sure he would get another chance after this, so it's great to see him capitalizing on this chance. This is his chance. He really needs to go for it. He knows that, and he really doesn't... The fact that he doesn't have to face Takakeisho is very good for him because... For whatever reason, he just does not have a great record against them. He should have nobody that he can't stop. So, we'll see. I'm very impressed by the fact that he hasn't succumbed to the slipping like everybody else. He's the kind of guy that would have in the past. He's really tightened up his footwork. Monster says, Wakamotoharu may not get Ozeki after this tournament, but the outlook for him is still good. I agree. He does need to stay healthy and not get hurt. But I think he's in a holding pattern. I think he will probably finish strong, but not Ozeki candidate. Like, I don't think he'll get it now. But I think they'll say to him, get 10 wins next tournament and you're in, or whatever it is, 10, 11. And the Monster said, Shonannoumi is legit. I'd consider putting him on my Kachi Clash next time. He could climb until he hits the Joey wall, maybe. He's got a lot of potential. And then Monster says, I said it last stream and I'll say it again. Tobizaru is the strongest wrestler outside of the Sanyaku. Tobizaru is really showing in this tournament, and I thought for the last few tournaments that there were glimpses of this. He's really showing that he's way better than his antics would suggest. So he's got a personality that's a very flaily personality like Ura. I would say Ura's tightened up his game too. Ura has been amazing this tournament. I wonder if Tobizaru and Ura like feed off of each other, because the two of them, they have been upping their game so much in July. I can't even believe they're the same guys. But I think I might be, I think he might be right there. And I don't know that I would have said Tobizaru was that strong until this tournament. I saw glimpses of brilliance, but it was always overshadowed by just the chaoticness and the fact that you couldn't even tell what his style was. But I mean, he's been grabbing the Mawashi. He did the Nodowa to Terunofuji. I mean, something has happened to Tobizaru and something has happened to Ura, and it's fantastic. And I think we might see Tobizaru in the conversation next tournament to, be doing something, to really be climbing. I don't want to say Ozeki, but there's some potential for something. And then Dan T says, I felt otherwise. Tobizaru versus Terunofuji. I thought it was an awfully unfair advantage against someone who's pulling his Mawashi to have such a loose Mawashi. All right, well, I don't know what to say about that, because there's always those conversations about whether that was intentional or not intentional. So let me just say, it's one of the elements you have to deal with. He still did something to Terunofuji that you don't see many people do. Then Dan says, normally moving the Mawashi around should move its Rikishi too. All right. Monster says, Tamawashi has been so weird, just like this weird Basho. He got 4 Yurikiri wins in a row. That's never happened before. That's definitely him adjusting to the fact that he slipped, to the fact that he can't do his style. He's the oldest guy in the tournament. He's got a lot of experience, and he knows what he has to do. And if he's got to do something that's not quite his style, he'll do it because he wants to win and he wants to stay in. And then he says, Endo has a big career history advantage, but how do you bet against Nishikigi after all he's done? You can't bet against Nishikigi, but at the same time, this is Sumo. And with Sumo, anything can happen at any time. You think you know a guy and then he gets hurt, or you think you know a guy and then he does something crazy. So I would never say bet against Nishikigi, but I can also say every day is almost like a brand new tournament. And that's why you hear the guys say, like, I have to do my style of sumo every day. It's a game of inches. All it would take is Endo doing a perfectly timed leg trip on a slippery part of the sand, and Nishikigi's down and it's over. So just remember. And then Monster says could go either way. Monster says, will Takayasu go Kujo? He's looking really, really bad. He could go Kujo. He's definitely hurt. It's probably his back. I would imagine the slippery conditions are not good for a tight back. I almost think some guys should just take July off because it's not good for their career. I don't know. I could see it happening, but at the same time, I could see him not doing it at least until he fights Hakuoho. But who knows? I mean, the Kyujos are always pretty surprised. We will talk about that after I read the last comment, the surprise Kyujo. The loose Mawashi thing is commonly done in sumo, and there are advantages as well as disadvantages to it. I see it as smart, not unfair, but I can understand why others feel that way. That's one of those weird things where I don't know what the official rule is on it, but yeah, guys do it. And it could work against you. You could think it's a good idea, and it could work against you. So, I don't want to comment on that particular thing too much because I don't know enough. I haven't thought about it enough to really opine. So I'm gonna hold off on that one. So we have the surprise Kyujo, which was Asanoyama. And this is a fascinating thing because, I keep saying, I paid a lot of attention to Asanoyama before he got dumped down from the suspension. There's always something just a little bit off with that guy, but at least he was always healthy. I think this is the first injury that I've seen from him. So unfortunately, who knows? I don't think it's a severe injury, but at the same time, he was already kind of struggling. And now he gets an injury. I don't know. I really don't know that Asanoyama is going to be able to make that comeback that everybody wants. You have Hakuoho saying he could be the next Yokozuna. I don't see it. I don't see him even getting back to Ozeki, especially now with an injury knocking him out. He lost 2 years. And all these young guys came in, and everybody got stronger and faster, and that's a shame. But we'll have to see. I don't think it was a really bad injury, so we'll see. Dan says there are loose Mawashis, and then there are loose Mawashis. Yeah. Like I said, Dan, I don't know if I want to opine on it, but you're making very valid points, and I could see people who would agree with you on that. It's a little bit of a shame that there would be that in there because, you want to root for Tobizaru to overcome. With that being said, I hope Terunofuji isn't that hurt. When they said he came out, it wasn't his knees, it was his back. And, we've seen some, I think it was Kota no Waka that ended Ishiura's career. So it's like, ugh. Oh, what are you saying here? It may say 4 weeks rest, but bicep tears are bad news. I worry he may lose some of his power in his return. So they're saying that Terunofuji was out because of a bicep tear? I thought it was a back thing. Ooh, yeah, bicep tear is bad news. And I'll tell you why. Besides the injury itself, obviously, is a bad deal. However, all Terunofuji has right now is, his upper body has been doing the work for his knees. He's got his Kimidashi, he's got just his brute force, and his knees are just kind of, they're there. He's strengthened them enough to handle a lot, but they're not doing all the work. And we've seen this with, it's Asanoyama. Whew, that scared me. Okay, so Asanoyama has a bicep tear. All right, let's switch to that. Not good. Not good to have a bicep tear for Asanoyama. He's a technique guy. He's a Mawashi guy. He's a strong guy, like you said. He could lose some of his power. And now he's just that much older. So he's not a young guy who might bounce right back from that. I'm going to have to go back and look at that match and see exactly what happened that caused the tear. Eesh. That's a raw deal. This is sumo, right? Sumo is a lot like life. You have to seize the moment, get as much success and glory as you can because it's over like that. And that might be the deal with Asanoyama. I don't think it's over right this second, but I don't have good feelings. Kwakiryu says Hoshoryu. I assume you're saying that's who's going to win the Yusho. Matthew Murphy says Ishiura ended Ishira's career. He's in the ring, and that's the cost of combat sports. Of course. I'm not really blaming Kota no Waka. I wouldn't do that. I'm just saying that certain fights are a bad match for you. And if you wind up in that situation, you're out of luck. And that's what happened to Ishiura. He was the highest rank that he had ever been when he went into that fight with Kota no Waka, and he was a small guy. And what I've always discussed about the small guys, and so far, Midori Fuji and Nishikigi Fuji haven't fallen into this curse like Ishiro and Endo have, or Enho. You're on the razor's edge if you're a small guy. Any little thing and you are done, because Kota no Waka is a massive man. And Ishiro, and this is why, discussed this in one of the previous live streams. You don't fight with Kotonowaka on the edge. So many people have been injured doing that. The guy is massive. Just as counterintuitive as it may be, just lose the match if you're on the edge with him. Unless you're a big guy too. Okay, Monster says, I have been an Asanoyama doubter even back when he was Ozeki, but it's hard not to feel bad for him after all his misfortunes. He deserves better. I feel the same way. I like Asanoyama. I have been a doubter since he was an Ozeki as well, but not for any reasons of not liking him, not for thinking he isn't a talented guy, not for thinking he hasn't worked his butt off. I mean, a lot of bad things have happened to him. In the case of the suspension, some of it's on him, but some of it's on the weird rules that they put in place because some people got punished and some people didn't. And then his dad dies in there. I mean, I'm very sympathetic to that, which we're also dealing with Mitake Yumi, who just lost his dad like a week ago, and he's fighting. I mean, you know, I've gotten on Mitake Yumi, but he gets a pass for a long time now because that's hard. That's really hard to overcome. I do think that Asanoyama deserves better. And this is combat sports. This is all sports to some degree, but combat sports especially. They're unforgiving. They're just so unforgiving. You're on top of the world one day, and the very next day, it's over. And that's it. Yeah, Kotonowaka did put a wrench on Tobi's arm. I'm a little worried that Tobizaru is going to be in trouble. Like, here he's got all this excitement and zip, and he's started this new thing. Kotonowaka might have hurt him in the match. I don't know. And then Monster says, oh man, Mitake Yumi is hard to watch. Yeah, he dedicated this tournament to his dad, but it's so soon after it happened. I think it was like a few days before the tournament started. That's a lot. Mitake Yumi was already dealing with something. My suspicion is, without knowing anything else, that what he was dealing with was he made it to Ozeki and then he completely crashed out. And how do you overcome that? How do you overcome thinking you're going to be like the next guy and now you're not? And to get back there is going to be so much harder. And then his dad dies. Maybe his dad was sick on top of it all. We'll never know. You know, that's details we won't get. But I don't know how he's fighting in this tournament. I give him all the respect in the world, all the sympathy in the world. That's really, really hard to go through. So, I just hope he you know, does the best he can do so that he feels okay at the end of it. Because there's not much you can do except for wait for time to pass. And even then, you know, it never gets better. It just, you get more used to it. It's unfortunately how it goes. So, I feel for him. I really do. Let's see. Is there anybody out there? Yep, I see Dan's back. Didn't he announce a marriage just after his Ozeki promotion? Maybe it had been kept under wraps until then, but I imagine it really changed his training routines. I believe that's true. I believe that it was something like, I could be mixing this up with another wrestler, but I thought there was something like, okay, we're going to get married now because I got the Ozeki promotion, or we're going to announce it because of that. But yes, he did get married either right before or right after. That's a lot of change. We've discussed on this channel many times how much being Ozeki so different than every other position. Sure, Yokozuna is different too. You have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You have to show up to everything. And then if you don't live up to expectations, you have to retire. No other position has that. But what Ozeki has is all the responsibility, all the expectation, but then, like, you can't take any time off. If you get hurt, you're done. Yokozunas, they can take a year off and they'll let you come back. That's not the way it's supposed to be, but that's the way it's been going. So here he is, brand new Ozeki, brand new marriage. He made a lot of promises about how he was going to try to go for Yokozuna. And he had been trying for a very long time to get into Ozeki. He had been sort of what we call salaryman Sanyaku. He just was stuck in Sanyaku. He never went down. He stayed there. He kept doing the 8 and 7 thing. And now he finally gets it, and it just barely lasts because Ozeki is just that hard. And Yokozuna harder. You see all these Ozekis like Daieisho. Obviously, he's never going to be Yokozuna now. He had 2 chances, and that second chance, that was it. And now we'll be lucky if he stays Ozeki much longer or even has much more of a career left. So, yeah, it's got to be hard for me, Takayumi. He went through a lot of really positive change, and then it all fell apart. Hopefully his marriage is doing good. Hopefully we're all good there. And he's got a very supportive mom. So, there's that. I'm going to see if I have anything else on here that I was going to talk about. I think I covered pretty much everything. If there's any other comments. Really, the big thing is we're going to have a wild conclusion. I have no clue. Absolutely no clue at all who's going to win this thing. Who's even going to be in the final day, because it's so early. It doesn't seem like it, but it's still so early. There are major collapses that could happen and major surges that could happen at the exact same time. So this picture, by the time we get to Friday, it could look so different. I really hope, though, it's one of the 9-1 or the 8-2 guys, because I'm kind of sick of these 12-3s. You know, I really would like to move on from that. Monster says, there's been a rumor that Takayumi's fall is because of long COVID. It would explain it, but it's only a rumor, of course. I have heard that rumor, and it is possible. I mean, he got COVID right at the time when things were going good. You know, and COVID really affects bigger guys. So, it's possible. Very possible. Quackaroo is reminding us of Hoshoryu, and that reminds me, there is one other thing I wanted to say on the stream, but first I'll say Hokutofuji Yusho. John, I know you're going to be listening to this. I am not trying to jinx Hokutofuji. This is all in tribute to you and your efforts to positively throw out into the ether Hokutofuji Yusho. So this is all in good faith, my friend. I hope you appreciate it. And the subscribers are with you too. You should read the one of the comments on the post. They were like, I am very disappointed in the lack of Hokutofuji Yusho comments. So, and then Monster says, I don't think Kirishima is going to make it to 8 wins. I don't think he is either. It's going to be quite the uphill climb. It's once again too, right? He could get a 7 and 8. Doesn't matter. He's Kataban. If you're any other guy, you might be able to keep your rank. So Kirishima is about to find out. It's not so easy to be Daieisho. There is so much. I can't help it. I'm going to do it again. There is so much negative comments about Daieisho being Kataban all the time. It's like, okay. First of all, there's nobody else there. And second of all, guess what happens every time somebody else comes up? They go through the same thing, except they don't stay Ozeki. So I'm just going to put that out there. Yep. And then Monster says, we haven't talked about the Juryo promotions demotions yet as an important thing we haven't talked about. I want to wait on that. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Remind me tomorrow. I assume you're going to come back tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I had a plan to discuss a few other things, and the technical difficulty screwed me up majorly. And I want to have the proper notes and the proper... I want everything all together before I talk about certain things. So, Stargazer says, another factor for the last 5 days is Gyoji Inosuke. Is that the guy, the last guy, the top Gyoji, who had to tie the mawashi, and it wasn't really going so well. You know, he's been, if that's who Inosuke is, because I don't remember their names. If that's Inosuke, yeah, he's been a factor in the past too. He's interfered accidentally in matches. He has fallen off the dohyo at inappropriate times. He has made some bad calls. Yeah, I heard from one of our subscribers that he might actually have like a brain problem. Like he had like a stroke or something. So, don't quote me on that, but that's what I thought I heard. Monster says, Takakeisho is one of the strongest Ozeki in history, but everyone talks so badly about him. Yeah, the negative comments about Takakeisho are a couple of things. One, it's internet culture. In internet culture, everything is extreme. So we have to say, Takakeisho's the worst ever. He's terrible. You know, that's one thing. But the other thing is, people are just so desperate to see an Ozeki who stays in it and is competitive. But that is not possible right now. It's not possible. We haven't had a bunch of strong Ozeki in a very long time. This Kadoban carousel has been going on since Takayasu and Goedo were in the role. It's supposed to be a transitory position where eventually the Ozeki becomes a Yokozuna. And unfortunately, in Takakeisho's case, he's way too strong to be anything but Ozeki, but not strong enough to be Yokozuna. And there's something to be said about being the top Ozeki. I mean, the guy puts himself out there and gets tore apart, and he wins when he shouldn't be able to win. So, oh, the haters. He's Battle Hamster Tho. I don't know what Tho is. I don't know if it's a typo or if I just don't know things. I don't know. The Monster says, oh yeah, the officiating has been so bad this basho, very subpar refereeing. There's been definitely some sketchy stuff. I think, actually when Nishikigi fought Tobizaru, I thought that there should have been a Mono-ii on that. Matthew says, I wish Shiragisho was Ozeki. Shiragisho should be Ozeki. First of all, he's a massive man, and yet he's got these agile ballerina-like moves. I like Shiragisho. I do. Speaking of haters, there's been way too much dooming over Hokuseiho. That is a natural conclusion to Hokuseiho was the first great hype. So before Ochiai, now Hakuoho had, zoomed up. He was the first guy that we were supposed to get so hyped and excited for. And like I said, this is internet culture, but this is also because Sumo has been not living up to our hopes and dreams lately. Hokuseiho has a lot to work on. It's not that he's not a good wrestler, but he has very awkward proportions, and he doesn't know how to use them yet. He really doesn't. He can literally reach over the back of a guy and grab his mawashi, but then he doesn't do anything. Or he's fighting these little guys and he's letting them dictate where they're going to be in the ring, and it's like, they shouldn't get that far. You're a monster of a man. If we could have seen Hokuseiho fight Ichinojo, that would have told us a lot more about what kind of wrestler he is. I was waiting for him to fight Asanoyama. I'm very upset that I didn't get to see that match. He's not doing that badly, but people are talking like he's been completely thrashed all basho. Yeah, because people lack subtlety. Everything is the worst ever or the best ever. And it's like, no. It's sort of, he's doing okay. I'm sure he wishes he was doing better, but he has to learn. Hoshoryu would have tournaments like this. Hoshoryu took a lot longer to get to where he is because he would have tournaments like Hokuseiho. I actually think they're very similar, not fighting styles, but a very similar way about them. Quackadoo asks, will we ever see another 22-year-old Yokozuna? I don't think so. I want to be wrong, but I'm just going to go based on what I'm seeing. The training regiments are not the same. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. We're talking in the time of when Hakuoho did this. Like, we're talking major hazing. We're talking he's training until he has capillaries busting in his lungs. We are talking about a drive and a desire that's just abnormal. And that used to be a far more common in previous generations. Now we're seeing a very different type of fighter. We are seeing, and I'm not going to place a value judgment on it. I don't know if it's good or bad. I guess it depends on what you're looking at. But today's fighters are not what the old fighters were. You might now see a new standard where Yokozuna is 27, 28, and that's like, wow, that's a young Yokozuna. I don't think we're going to, unless we see some guy who's like out of a time capsule, who also, Daieisho has that old school vibe to him, but he never had the right proportions to do what he wanted to do. If he was in a different body, you would have seen Daieisho probably as a 22-year-old Yokozuna. So you got to have both. You've got to have sort of this old school mentality, but also the endurance and the talent, and it's all got to come together to have that happen. So yes, my belief is the new young Yokozuna will be 27, 28, and I don't even know when we're going to see that. It might be Hakuoho. He might be the next Yokozuna. And Monster says, I don't think it's impossible, but it will take a historically exceptional talent. Yes, and here's the thing that people don't realize. That's what Hakuoho was. Everybody got so used to him. When you're living in an era with an exceptional talent, you believe that that's the standard, and you believe that you're always going to have that until that person is gone. You realize, oh wait, that was an exceptional talent. That wasn't the standard. Hakuoho is going to go down as like one of the greatest of all members of any sport, because he really was something beyond what the average wrestler is. Well beyond. And I honestly think he might have too much faith in his students, which is a good thing. But I don't know that they're going to be him. Hoshoryu and Takanohana and more did it at 22, 23. Yeah, different era. The training was different. The attitudes were different. The way of being was different. I don't think that exists anymore in sumo. I think that whole thinking is gone. Think about it. Hoshoryu isn't even in sumo anymore. Takanohana, not in sumo anymore. A lot of these guys that were in that era who trained and were ruthless guys, they are gone. It is done. Sumo is in a totally different place now. So, it could happen, but I don't expect it. All right. Anything else? I'm gonna do my, my him and haw, like, should I end the stream or not? And then you guys play the game where you send really interesting comments and then I don't end. And then John asked me later, I thought you were going to end like 20 times. Like many sports, the age range for fighters increases gradually as time goes on. Yeah, there's a sort of natural, shift in any sport. And what we're seeing in the modern times is, there's a lot better training and there's a lot more dedication. So you're seeing people come in older. You're seeing people have longer careers, but you're not seeing the exponential talents anymore. They're kind of like a candle in the wind. When you come in as hard and as hot as some of these guys, you don't typically have a career that long. Unlike Hakuoho. Not only did he come in and beat everybody, he had a really long career. I just don't see that happening anymore. The shift has happened. Of course, this is all just my opinion. What do I know? History proved me wrong. Sumo proved me wrong. All right. I think it is time to end. I will be back tomorrow. It should be 9:15 this time. Wait a minute. Matthew brought up something important. Then I'm going to go. Dan says, that's an interesting point. As the overall pool of talent grows older, the better medicine and all that, there are more top opponents for a young upstart to face. Exactly. Chiyoshoma hasn't done a Henka yet. When will he do it? I'm going to put a poll up when the stream is over. So you all have to vote on when you think Chiyoshoma will do the Henka. Matthew brought up what I was trying to remember that I was going to say in the stream. Aoyama will wrestle until he's 50. Okay. Remember, we're supposed to be on the Aoyama positivity train. So he's starting to make a little bit of a comeback right now. Let's all root for Aoyama to get his 8 and 7 so that we can see him in the top division going forward. He's one of John's favorites. We're doing this for John. So, positively train. Yeah, I'm starting to put more polls up because I think they're fun. So, I'm just going to post like crazy in the community tab because why not? It's there. Polls are fun. So, I'm going to definitely put the Chiyoshoma poll up as soon as this stream is over. And we're all going to give positive vibes to Aoyama. Aoyama stocks are rising. All right. I am going to go. You're not going to trick me this time and say anything else that I want to talk about. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 9:15. Thank you for stopping by.